What if I told you that a single speech could change the course of a nation? Discover the shocking delivery and impact of Joseph Goebbels' Sportpalast speech during World War II. Paul Joseph Goebbels was born on October 29, 1897, in Reit, Germany. His parents, both Roman Catholics from modest backgrounds, had 5 other children. Unfortunately, Joseph was afflicted with health issues from a young age, including a deformed right foot resulting from a congenital disorder. Despite these challenges, he excelled academically, ultimately earning a doctorate in philology from the University of Heidelberg in 1921. His early aspirations as an author and his deep-seated animosity towards Jews would shape his future as a key figure in Nazi propaganda. In the 1920s, Goebbels became involved with the Nazi Party, captivated by Adolf Hitler's charismatic leadership. By 1926, he was appointed the Gauleiter of Berlin, where he skillfully utilized propaganda to bolster the party's image. Over time, Goebbels became the chief architect of Nazi propaganda, controlling all forms of communication, including press, radio, and film. His disdain for Jews influenced his rhetoric, and he fostered an atmosphere of emotional extremism in Germany, consistently fueling hatred against the Jewish population. He viewed propaganda not just as communication, but as an essential tool for political power. As the 1930s progressed, Goebbels became a key figure in Hitler's inner circle, known for his ability to manipulate public sentiment. He orchestrated events like Nazi book burnings to enforce conformity and suppress dissenting voices. His control extended to film and radio, where he sought to ensure that Nazi ideals were embedded in the German collective psyche. As a result, Goebbels transformed media into a potent weapon, promoting Hitler as a messianic figure and attacking perceived enemies of the state. In 1943, during the height of World War II and facing severe military setbacks, the stakes were even higher for Goebbels and the Nazi leadership. Fast forward to 1943, the situation for Nazi Germany started to deteriorate after devastating defeats, particularly the loss at Stalingrad. Goebbels sensed the urgent need to rally the German populace and bolster their morale. On February 18th, he prepared to address the public in the Sportpalast, an arena in Berlin. As he stepped onto the stage, he understood that this speech could galvanize national sentiment or plunge Germany deeper into despair. His passion for the cause and skills as an orator would soon be put to the ultimate test as his call for total war echoed through the arena. In early 1943, the situation for Nazi Germany was grim. The once dominant forces were faltering, particularly after the catastrophic defeat at Stalingrad, where over 1 million Soviet troops fought fiercely against the German army. This significant loss shattered the illusion of German invincibility, causing a ripple effect throughout the country. Goebbels, fully aware of the declining morale, felt a palpable urgency to rally the German populace to support total war, a concept that would demand sacrifice from everyone. The Nazi regime faced mounting pressure to maintain public enthusiasm for the war effort and to combat the growing disillusionment among Germans. Goebbels took it upon himself to influence the narrative in Nazi Germany. He urged Adolf Hitler to adopt stricter measures to mobilize the entire nation, including enlisting women into the workforce for armaments production. Additionally, he proposed closing non-essential businesses to focus resources solely on the war effort. However, Hitler was hesitant, often caught between conflicting advice from his military commanders and party officials. Goebbels became frustrated with the inertia displayed by the leadership, realizing that the Nazis were losing grip on their narrative and the war. His desperation to present a united front to the German people grew along with the stakes. As the preparations for the Sportpalast speech began, the German public remained in a state of uncertainty. Goebbels recognized the importance of creating an emotional appeal to sway the nation's sentiments. On the evening of February 18th, he would address a vast audience filled with expectation, eager to hear the future direction of the Nazi regime. The pressure was immense, and he aimed to present himself as the voice of conviction and hope, despite the grim circumstances. He intended to use rhetoric to ignite a spirit of total war, convincing the German people that only through complete mobilization could they overcome their enemies. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and Goebbels knew the time for inspiring words was now. Despite Goebbels' strategic efforts, internal dissent began to surface as some party members questioned the reality of their military situation. They were wary of Goebbels and Hitler's insistence on continuing the war at all costs. However, those doubts couldn't cloud Goebbels' vision for the speech that night. His rhetoric would not only inspire the soldiers, but would also bring back hope and unity among the citizens in this time of desperation. He had to portray unwavering confidence and strength. Anything less could signal weakness and lead to further discontent. The pressure mounted, and Goebbels understood the greater responsibility he held in shaping the narrative for the German people. On the evening of February 18, 1943, Joseph Goebbels stepped onto the stage of the Sportpalast in Berlin, preparing to deliver one of the most significant speeches of his career. The arena was filled to capacity, with approximately 18,000 spectators eager to hear the propaganda minister's words. The atmosphere was thick with tension as the audience looked to Goebbels for guidance and resolve during a time marked by severe military setbacks for Nazi Germany. He understood that this speech needed to galvanize the German people, instilling in them a sense of urgency and unity amid chaos. As he launched into his speech, Goebbels emphasized the concept of total war. His fiery rhetoric resonated with the German people, painting a picture of a heroic struggle against the Bolshevik enemy. He called on all citizens to contribute to the war effort, demanding sacrifices from every segment of society. Goebbels' use of persuasive language aimed to evoke emotions, motivating the audience to rally behind their leaders and contribute to what he portrayed as a noble cause. His commitment to Nazi ideology was unwavering, despite the grim reality of the war. Goebbels delivered lines that would echo in history, asserting that total war was essential for the survival of the German nation and its people. He reminded the audience of the sacrifices that had already been made and implored them to stay resolute in their commitment to Nazi Germany. As Goebbels spoke of unity and sacrifice, he framed the existential battle against the Allies as a struggle for Germany's very existence. This dramatic reinforcement of Nazi ideology aimed to quell doubt and bolster morale, rallying the population to support the war effort. Despite his compelling delivery, the underlying reality remained challenging. Goebbels could sense that not everyone in the audience fully believed in the regime's narrative. Some were skeptical of continuing the fight at all costs, questioning the very rhetoric he was pushing. However, he remained undeterred, believing in his abilities as a master propagandist. His speech, while aiming to turn current despair into fierce determination, also served as a reflection of the desperate measures the regime was willing to take to sustain its power. As the Sportpalast speech concluded, Joseph Goebbels had effectively delivered a desperate call to arms for the German people amid the dire circumstances of World War II. The immediate aftermath was a flurry of reactions from the audience. Many felt invigorated by his message, believing that their sacrifices were necessary for a greater cause. Yet there were underlying tensions as dissent began to bubble beneath the surface in various segments of the population. The propaganda machine was determined to capitalize on this event, amplifying Goebbels' passionate rhetoric through all available media channels. Subsequent to the speech, newspapers and radio broadcasts widely disseminated Goebbels' statements, reinforcing the narrative of total war. The public was inundated with slogans and propaganda, emphasizing national pride and the need to persevere against Allied forces. Statistics on military enlistment surged for a short period, as many citizens felt a renewed sense of duty towards their country following the speech. However, in reality, the war effort was becoming increasingly unsustainable, with food shortages and economic strain visible across the nation. Despite Goebbels' attempts to maintain high morale, the harsh reality continued to weigh heavily as military defeats mounted. His propaganda tactics, while initially effective, faced significant challenges. The enthusiasm displayed at the Sportpalast often faltered when faced with the grim reports from the front lines. Many citizens began to express their frustrations openly, questioning the government's claims and the narrative they had been fed. Goebbels' laws, earlier fears of losing control over public sentiment, started to materialize as people confronted the reality of a war seemingly lost. In his diaries, Goebbels expressed mounting concerns over the morale of both the military and the general public. He understood that a single speech would not suffice, and the regime needed to bolster its efforts to reinforce nationalist sentiments. As public dissent grew, Goebbels began to push for more aggressive measures, including calls for increased volunteer enlistment and harsher penalties for dissenters. His fears of rebellion seeped into his writings, revealing a man increasingly aware of the desperate measures required to maintain control over a crumbling state.